So we're standing just right at the start of the Grant Frontier Park, and the Grant Frontier Park was created with natural resource damage funding, which was leveraged to use additional funding from other partners like Great Outdoor Colorado, the City and County of Denver, and we provided, it was a total of $1.5 million plus interest to do 4 different projects within the area. So it kind of starts upstream from where we are and ends here at the Grant Frontier Park. There's a Pasquinel's Landing, which is just upstream from where we are, and then there's Overland Park as well. And so those are the 3 main projects that resulted from hazardous chemicals being in the water here that really polluted the South Platte here. So the restoration activities helped improve the habitat, put in some little fishery pools, and then some landings and some eddies and things to make better habitat for bugs and fish, but then also to have more of recreational and connectivity to the community area.
I'm Ryan Ades. I'm the Executive Director for the Greenway Foundation. The Greenway Foundation is a local Denver nonprofit that's been around since 1974, working on the South Platte River. Back when the South Platte River was a nothing of a river, the Greenway Foundation was started to revitalize that river and champion that to improve water quality, improve community engagement around the river.
So I started with Denver Parks and Recreation back in 2007, and I was fortunate early on to meet Jeff Shoemaker and the Greenway Foundation team and realized that these guys were really incredible partners in wanting to reimagine the South Platte River and reimagine the natural aspects of Overland Pond Park and many other sites along the river. And I got to meet his team, which included Merle the Pearl, we called him. Fantastic human being. He was just someone who cared so much about the work that he was doing. And he and Jeff made quite the team. And we went out and got funding from many different sources, but it was really the federal funding that was the initial capital stack that allowed us to go out and ask the city for more funding, ask other grant funders for more funding, because we had those initial funds as kind of our base. So this project, I believe, came first, as I recall. And we redid the beautiful dock behind me. We also did that little gathering area for students to be able to access the water and do water quality testing, to fish from, and do all kinds of other environmental learning activities.
As far as for the community, the Greenway Foundation hosts several events in this park. We do our 5th grade excursions here. It's one of the favorites for the students and for our educators because they get to put a whitewater raft on the pond, paddle around, learn what it means to be in a raft. We also host our annual family fishing day here. So the pond gets stocked with fish. We provide rods and reels for the kids that they get to take home with them. And the hope is that they love what they do here and bring that rod and reel back and come back with their parents and do fishing later on. So, and our hope at Greenway is that we instill that fondness of the river and waterways and nature at a young age so that they have that as they grow older.
And then we also did work at Pasquinel's Landing, where we took out dump trucks worth of soil and regraded the park back to the river. Both Grant Frontier and Pasquinel's had banks that were like 2 to 1 with invasive species and trees along the bank. And so we sculpted all that turf out and reconnected both Grant Frontier and Pasquinel's back to the river and created layers of wetlands and different ecosystems as the grade goes back up.
And those tiers actually measure different flood levels. So the highest wall at Grant Frontier Park will show you what the 100-year flood level looks like. And that funding was used to replant the vegetation down at the bottom. So what's cool about that park is if it does flood, the vegetation floods, but it's made to withstand that flooding. And so when the water recedes, the vegetation comes back. It looks like that's how it was meant to be. So that's a really resilient park, and that's specifically what those funds were used for in that park.
And I came back a week after we opened, just on a Saturday, just to check out how it was being used. I've never felt so good about a project in my life. There was a birthday party around the cottonwood, and they were all having fun around the cottonwood tree. And then I walked down towards the river, and there were literally 20 or 30 kids running around in the mud with their shoes off and getting into the river, which they couldn't access before. Another kid was with a net, and she was scooping out trash from the river, and her dad was holding onto her hand so she could reach out further. I mean, it couldn't have been a better day at a new park. I never imagined it would be used like we had dreamed.
So this is just one of many projects that we do in Colorado. You know, we make sure that we're collecting those damages and we're putting that money out there for projects like these. And we have projects across the whole state of Colorado, and so there's always an opportunity for us to help improve that connectivity with nature and the environment, and just making sure that we're restoring those lost resources.
Ducks Unlimited utilizes funding from NRDAR to enhance, restore, and conserve wetland habitats, especially in the South Platte River, where a lot of these incidents occurred. The South Platte River is a water-short system. There's not enough water to go around, and certainly not enough to restore all the habitats we need to restore for migratory birds. One of the solutions that we've come up with is to work with agricultural and municipal partners to use water to recharge the groundwater associated with the South Platte River's aquifer. With waterfowl, they're a migratory species, which means we have to focus on continental habitat restoration. So that occurs in the breeding grounds of Canada, here in Colorado in the migration season, and wintering habitats in Mexico. In Mexico, we're focusing on habitats they use on the Pacific coast and in the interior highlands. Restoring habitats there means that we can maintain body condition with these birds so that they return to Colorado and up to Canada in better body condition, which we know means they're more likely to succeed in nesting. We use NRDAR funds to install and construct irrigation system infrastructure that allows us to take water when it's available in the non-irrigation season, apply it into wetland basins that are preferred by waterfowl during the non-breeding season, and that water then percolates down through the ground back to the river during the irrigation season when a lot more folks need it up and down the river.
I was approached by Colorado Open Lands, and they wanted to do a conservation easement on our place. And we did one of the first ones where we were able to lease some of the water off of our land that was used for irrigation. After we had done that, I got more involved with Ducks Unlimited a little bit, and they brought in other partners, and we were able to really realize the actual building of the ponds then, because I couldn't afford to do this by myself. So it took partnerships, and it took a lot of money to be able to do this, but not on my part. So it was to enhance wildlife, you know, in general. Whenever you can make land reach its full potential, you have then the overflow of that into other areas. So you're bringing ducks into my area. It brings other wildlife that just start using the area and the whole community, you know, through where we live here. The ducks go over to or the geese go over to cornfields or hay fields, and you bring hunters in there. So it really does enhance a wider area than just your little area where you live. Really, in our area, agriculture is what initially brought this water into our area and what really started the wildlife growing. But if you can just tweak it a little bit in a few areas, it just makes a big difference for the community as a whole and the county as a whole. So I think that's a big deal for our area when landowners can enhance their piece and make it better for everyone.
When you think of the ecological benefits to it, you know, from beautiful habitats that have been enhanced and restored to the economic benefits that it brings in, you know, from millions of dollars a year on the Arkansas River from recreationists, including fishermen and rafters, to, you know, here in the city of Denver. I mean, it's a lot of money that recreation and tourism can bring in. And so if we have those kinds of natural resources that we can enhance and restore, that's really important. And especially in this day and age, you know, we know there's a lot more people, there's a lot more buildings, there's a lot less open space. So the more we can enhance and restore and protect those areas is really super important.